Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What's the Message? I am your host, Claudia Allen, and I am so excited about today because I am with my friend, my boss, my leader, my editor, the lady who gets it all done, Carmela Monk Crawford. And what's crazy is this is episode 28.
Are you kidding?
We have been going, Carmela, for literally 28 weeks, potentially 28 episodes. That's
Wow.
mind blowing,
It
right?
is. It is.
Man. And the crazy thing is, so we started out with just us talking, and I think we did that for maybe about 7 or 8 episodes.
Hmm.
And the last 20 have been all guests.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They've
Have
been good
really
too.
been have we have had some amazing guests, and so if you have missed some of those previous conversations, you want to make sure that you head over to our YouTube channel where you can
Hmm.
catch the episode with Jim Wallace and Sergeant Don Jackson.
That's right.
You want to make sure that you catch the episode with Reverend William H. Lamar. You want to make sure you catch the episode with Pastor Reginald Sharp Jr. Of Fellowship Chicago. Man, we have had some amazing people. We've had Pastor Carlton Bird on the episode. We have had Pastor Marquise Johns and Pastor Michael Kelly. We have
Hmm.
had Dr. Oliver and Elaine. What are their names? Why am I
Oliver, you said Dr. Willie and
Oliver,
Elaine
Willie
Oliver.
and
That's
Elaine
right.
Oliver. We have
Hmm.
had Kim Bolgen. We have had just so many amazing people over the last 20 episodes. And so we just want to encourage you to go check those out on our YouTube channel. Now,
Hmm.
as we're coming back to the conversation with me and Carmela, there
Hmm.
has been so much that has happened in the headlines, Carmela, that we have not gotten a chance to chat about, and that is what we're going to do today.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure you guys have heard of the time when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was basically cussed out on the steps of the Capitol. You guys have heard about, all of the controversy around the Black Lives Matter movement and
Hmm.
spiritualism. I mean, there's just so much that's happening. But Carmela, what are the stories? What are the topics that you came in contact with that we're going to talk about today?
Oh my goodness. Well, you're right. Number one, there's so many things going on. It is hard to weed through the different things. And this is why I'm going to start where I'm going to start today. Because, while we're looking at the foolishness that's going on with people painting over Black Lives Matter, and I really want to discuss this in a moment. Okay, I see your face, the deadpan. While we're looking at what's happening with this presidential administration, the administration has decided that they wanted to cut by 1 month the census takers, their canvassing ability to go around and count all of the people. The census is the best data that we have to
Right.
provide information based on the population and where people live, the demographics, the things that people need. This is the best data that we have. And so, and not to mention the congressional representation is
Yeah.
based upon where people live and who they are. So you cut this short, and news reports indicate if you cut short now, we're missing what 4 out of 10 homes they're trying to get through in the next 1 month to 6 weeks. Okay. And so who does that benefit? Well, many people say that, well, that will benefit obviously the incumbent in power,
Mhm.
President Trump, but and here this discussion is not meant to be partisan, but the
Right.
question does come into play. Where is the fair play? And if you don't count everybody, how can you tell where the community resources and dollars need to go to
Yeah.
fund help for the community? And so while we're watching different things, right now is a really hard season, Claudia. I mean, we all know we're watching what's happening. We're out here protesting, or we're looking at things, and we are protesting in our own spheres. This is the time to get at the infrastructure of racism. And
Mm.
if we stay just, what am I trying to say? If we stay in call out mode and not reconstruction or construction mode, I don't know if I want to use the word reconstruction, but if we don't stay in construction mode, I'm thinking we're going to miss some things. What do you think?
No, that's good. I hear what you're saying. So basically, you're saying that, hey, we've all been having these conversations about racism for the last several months. We've been talking about the ways that it's manifesting, and we're actively seeing it. And they're trying to close the census early, and prevent people from completing. And so you're saying that if we stay in conversation mode and don't actively start intercepting this kind of stuff and start actually getting people filled out on the census,
Yes.
all the conversations that we're having are pointless.
All right, right, right. And then, you talk about defund the police, and we've talked about that in previous programs about, defund is such a, controversial term. I understand what the feeling is behind it in terms of reallocating funds, in terms of putting our funds where they're most likely to do the best good,
Yeah.
and in terms of building up communities. And so this is the census is like the bedrock of all of that discussion. And so if we short circuit that, and right now, truly, you had your first wave, people who filled out their census and everything like that. But now there's other people, the harder to reach communities that need to, whether it's reminding, whether it's, did we miss them, whatever. I just had a census taker come to our house yesterday. He knocked on the door and said, "We didn't get a census filled out for you." I said, "Well, that's because when this was due back in April, I lived somewhere else." He said, "Well, that's what happens. So, people move." And so if you have a transient population or people who are here and there, they could get missed. Our duty right now is to make sure everybody gets counted. Everybody gets counted. This is a year, an election year. Every vote gets counted. Don't
Yeah.
suppress our vote. Don't repress the vote. Don't discourage people from voting. And everybody gets counted, because that's how you have the true measure of who we are, and the breadth of the cultures and different interests that go into the community. This is what has to be emphasized right now. I'm going to tell you, in the last few weeks, I've been doing some of our news gathering for Message. And to me, that theme comes over and over again about, okay, we got to dive even deeper. And so, just I think it was last week, they were talking about clean water. Hey, that shouldn't even be a discussion. Everybody needs clean water, just like they need food, right? But, as you know, and you're from Michigan, the conversation is still going with Flint, right? What
Absolutely.
I thought was interesting in that conversation was that, okay, let's get out all of the pipes that have lead. Well, the one of the people, they put a lawsuit, right? And said, okay, well, how do we find out where the lead is?
Mm-hmm.
Go to the Black neighborhood. That's how you find where the lead pipes are. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how you find where the new and improved water system didn't go in place, because this is where the Black neighborhood is.
Right.
So we're talking about structural racism. This is not just on the top, whether or not people are offended, or whether people are just, saying things, about their surface visceral reaction. We're talking about everyday life and death measures
Yeah.
of security.
Yeah, no, man, you're talking good, Carmela, because and I really want to encourage you guys, click that share button right now, share this with somebody on your platform, because this is such critical information. We really want to encourage you and everyone that you're connected with to fill out the census this year, and of course, make sure that you're registered to vote. Because as Carmela's talking about, Carmela, while you were talking, what was coming to my mind is there's a lack of is it a lack of education? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it that people aren't filling these documents out because I don't really know to the extent of how they're going to impact me, like directly? Or
Mhm.
is it on the other hand of maybe I don't want to be found. you know
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how many poor people have paid their taxes, right? Like
Mm.
how many people have uh are illegal immigrants, right?
Mm.
So it's
Right.
like
Undocumented. Yeah. And they don't
undocumented.
have anything.
They
Right.
don't have anything. So it's like there's so many different levels, I think, as well, that when the system comes around, it's like, man, uh,
Right.
I'm okay. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this sacrifice, not necessarily knowing the structural and systematic impact that not filling it out is
Mhm.
directly having on you. I see someone in the comments, Huggins Lori wrote, "It's trust issues." That is
Yeah.
so true. I
Hmm.
don't think that many of us really trust that this administration has our best interests at heart,
Hmm.
or even local government has our best interests in heart at heart. So it's like, I'm going to give you my information. I'm going to tell you about, where I am and what I need.
Hmm.
But for what? Like, you're not
Right.
really going to do anything for me. Like, why? So why am I going to even take time to fill this out?
But isn't that uh, the same argument that is underpinning a lack of a drive to vote?
Mhm.
Does it really matter? Can
Yeah.
I trust the system? They're all this way. You can't trust them. I was surprised a few weeks ago. I was talking to a few a few people that I know that are younger than me. That I was really surprised at the depth of acceptance to one these conspiracy theories and the acceptance of just a nihilism that there is nothing I can do that
Yeah.
would change my environment. And if we have learned anything from the life of John Lewis in the last few weeks,
Yeah.
yes, it is so slow and it can be incremental, but you have to keep in the game.
Yeah.
And so from when we're talking about the census, I'm not going to discount anybody's fears.
Yeah.
And I believe that we all have the right to question our institutions. What are you doing with the data? What are you
Mhm.
doing with all of my information? And how can I trace those so-called dollars at work? Who is deciding how those will be allocated in my community? Who is deciding how the congressional districts will be drawn? And can I in any way make a comment and discuss this with my representatives about this long squiggly line that's supposed to be a congressional district? You understand what I'm saying? The point is, we have to stay engaged, and you have to stay engaged on a very, like you are dealing with your own bank account.
Mm.
Money comes in, money goes out. Anything that comes in that is not supposed to, anything that goes out that's not supposed to be going out, you're watching. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing with our community.
Yeah.
Okay. We cannot trust it to someone else to watch it. And so I think with the census, we need to be making some noise. And we need to be encouraging those around us to do something. I would like us to post, and I'm gonna see if I can send this. I didn't think about this before, but the Congressional Black Caucus, and if you're watching this, you might want to go on this yourself. The Congressional Black Caucus had what they called an emergency town hall meeting the other week, and
Wow.
Stacey Abrams was on there, and several other people. Actually, it was on Tuesday night this week,
Okay.
and so they were talking about what are some of the things that we need to do. And so I'm gonna see if we can find that link and send it. But the question is what what do these dollars do,
Yeah.
and how much is at stake, and what will be the impact of those dollars in my community? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's all critical. And the thing that also came to my mind while you were talking as well is so many of us complain about our vote not mattering
Yeah.
because of the electoral college, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the electoral college is intimately attached to how districts are drawn.
Yes.
And so, these are like the inner workings of, your civics and government class that I'm gonna keep it 1,000. I wasn't paying attention to in high school. So I'm sure there are others on like me that were not taking notes when Mr. Sherman was lecturing. Okay.
Okay.
And now you are grown and have absolutely no idea what's going on. All right. And
Yeah.
so we're having to re-educate ourselves. And that I think is a crucial part of the conversation as well. And so just like you're saying, just like Carmela is saying, guys, the census is intimately attached to how monies are allocated and used at the local level. But in addition to that, it is also intimately attached to how districts are drawn. Gerrymandering is real. Like,
Yes, it is.
and that kind of work is directly linked to the electoral college. And so it is going to directly impact voting and voting outcomes. And so, you filling out the census and you registering to vote are two necessities.
Right.
Okay. It's not like I'm gonna do one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's you really have to do both. And even to this conversation of it, does my vote really matter? Is it gonna count? I think that we've got to understand as well that what elected President Trump back in 2016 was not a bunch of people that didn't vote for that, voted for Hillary. What got him elected in 2016 was the host, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that did
Millions.
not vote at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
millions of people that did not vote at all.
Right.
That is the determining factor, guys. So you're looking at like a popular vote and you're saying, well, I voted and I didn't get my way when I voted. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like voting is a collective community activity. We've got to get everybody. So it's like we've got to make sure that the
Yes.
people you live next to filled out the census, and you got to make sure that the people you live next to vote. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is so critical. It's the people that do not vote that cause things like Trump to happen.
Okay, now you're gonna get us in trouble now, because
I
now
know
people are gonna
Facebook
think that
might
we
take us down
being.
because I called his name now.
Ooh, ooh. Well, the thing is, I'm laughing because I used to be a civics teacher. I used to be a social
Oh
studies
wow!
teacher
Please
for
teach
middle
us,
school.
Carmela. Please.
No, no, I can't. But what I have learned, what I learned in law school later, number one, is that each society teaches its citizens how to behave. But if you never went to school, based on your observations, you see how things are supposed to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, right?
Mhm.
But you learn. But I also learned in law school, you can go through all the theory you want in civics, like you said, and it could be your eyes glaze over. But let your rights be infringed upon and your space be impinged upon.
Mhm.
Now you know the law. Okay. And this is what,
Right.
my friend, I had a friend who was having a housing problem, an apartment problem. And you could sit through property, you can sit through landlord, tenant, and all this stuff. It's boring theory, but all of a sudden she's like, number one, my thing was my my rent and my deposit was held in escrow, and I have the right to make sure that you have this thing done in the next 30 days. If not, I will go to, and everybody's looking. She says, I can't remember the thing to save my life for the test, but let me get mad, okay? And this is the same
Let some
thing.
injustice happen. I can
That's
remember the law at that
you
point.
will remember it. You will remember that you need to get engaged and you need to be doing something. And this is where we are right now. I was telling my daughter just today, our daughter was interested in maybe doing some law. She's right here. We're going to take her to school as well. We're talking about the law, and in law school, it was always difficult to understand some of these issues and principles of property law. But Ruth Ben Phillip, he was also on our show
Absolutely.
early on. And Ruth Ben Phillip, he writes for Message with our financial column and what, practical things to do with your money and to build legacy and all that sort of thing. So Ruth Ben has written in our upcoming issue of Message the idea of heir property. Now, why am I talking about it? Because it goes with the same idea. Heir property, Heirs, heirs property, really, was the idea that I don't have to make a will, but after I die, somebody will inherit my property. My family will inherit my property.
Okay.
But as he lays out the systemic and structural, the laws in place made it possible for there to be a legal theft of billions of dollars worth of Black owned land and legacy.
Wow.
After Reconstruction.
Mercy.
What am I trying to say? The assumption that you cannot learn and watch and everything will be okay, we've got to get rid of that. Wow. We have to participate. We have to know what is at stake. We have to educate ourselves on the law. My grandfather, people used to come to him as if he was a lawyer, but he was not. He was not. He was a civil servant, but people would have a tax problem, an immigration problem, whatever it was, and they would come to him. Why? Because he believed in knowing the law for yourself and knowing your community and the civic engagement for yourself.
Yeah, that's so critical. That's so critical. And I think that that's the key. So many times we try to push people to fill out the census, register to vote, but we're also not doing the education behind it. We've got to actually educate people on how the system works, why you need to vote, why you need to fill out the census. Here are, here's how you check out candidates that are trying to become your sheriff, your local sheriff. This is how you learn more about the person that's trying to be your mayor or your school board superintendent and things like that. We've got to simultaneously both get people engaged, but then educate them on what's going on and how they can know and understand these processes and things happening around them that are directly impacting either their lives or the lives of their children.
Oh yeah. And this is where when you're engaged and you see and you can see, what's happening in my neighborhood is different than what's happening over there.
Absolutely.
They're not getting the new prison in their community, but we are. They're not getting the foul meat packing plant in their community, but we are. All right. They got a nice new Giant or a Wegmans or something like that, or Trader Joe's and Whole Foods in their community. I got the bodega that has the beer, the wine, the cigarettes, and the junk food. This is systemic, this is structural, and this is something that we have to attack and fight. This is not surface. This goes deep, which goes to some of the homework, the things that we are looking at this week, Claudia. You know what I mean? This goes deep.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely goes deep. And it's seen in so many different systems and factors, right? So it's like we're talking census and voting. And then I'm sure you all heard the story about 15-year-old Grace, a young woman who was basically incarcerated, put into the juvenile justice system because she did not complete her homework towards the end of May. She's a student outside of Detroit in Michigan. And I don't know about you guys, but this particularly troubled me, Carmela, because I can't imagine going to jail for not doing my homework.
I would be a repeat offender. Escalated, been up there, termed, 3 strikes, you out. Okay. That's not funny, but
and you know what I loved? I loved that they called her name Grace. As a cloak, because in school, whenever you don't feel like you can do an assignment or you don't want to do an assignment or you need some more space to do an assignment, you always go to the teacher and say, hey, can I get some grace?
Yeah.
Is there a grace period between me and the completion of this assignment? Can I turn it in later? Can I turn it in next week? To be honest, I need a semester. For those of us that are in graduate school and in professional programs, you understand sometimes you need a good 3 months to try something else again.
Or try my dissertation. I need a little more time. Okay.
I need more time. Can I get some grace? And
Mm-hmm.
it's so fascinating that we constantly ask for grace around homework.
Mm.
And they named this young lady who could not get any grace on her homework, that as a means to protect her. I loved that. I thought that that
Mm.
was a good move on that of the media and the press,
Yeah.
to
The
apply
irony.
that, yeah, the irony of that name. I just felt like that was awesome.
The thing that, okay, so Grace, supposedly the thing that brought her into the juvenile justice system was just the idea of stealing and assaulting her mother. Okay, so if she was an adult, these would be criminal things that would subject her to probation or even incarceration, right? But
Yeah.
because she's a youth, she's not, but she's going into juvie. But the thing is, as part of her probation, she's supposed to perform her schoolwork. She's supposed to do well school and go to school well. But
Yeah.
this is where Grace comes in. During the
Mm.
pandemic, the judge decided that
Yeah.
this was the time to lower the boom on a child who does not want to do their homework during a pandemic. Don't you know? The article that I read, you have tens of thousands of kids who are not logging on to do their
Come on.
homework. And this goes to the conversations we've had for the last couple of weeks. You don't know who has access to Wi-Fi. You don't know who understands that on a good day.
On a
I've
good.
had to struggle to make sure that I'm helping my kids, right? But moms and dads are overtaxed and they're out of the home and they're trying to manage doing work from home. And so now you've got a kid who's not online and
Yeah.
there's tension in home. And now's the time that I want to make sure that she goes to jail or to juvie to impress upon her the need to do homework. This is a lack of grace, decidedly.
Wow. Wow. And then they heard all of that.
Mm-hmm.
God, once you go home, all of us went into a very real independent study. Okay.
That
Every
includes
student,
food, media, snacks all day long, 24/7.
24/7. I mean, all of us from work to school,
Mm-hmm.
like we got into these incubators that are our houses, and
Mm-hmm.
we literally had distraction upon distraction. I mean, folk couldn't work. I mean,
Mm-mm.
those first, several weeks of COVID, because we were in a whole new environment.
Right.
We're trying to figure out, how do I produce
Mm-hmm.
at home?
Mm-hmm.
And that's for individuals who maybe don't have learning disabilities, or who
Yeah.
don't have mental disorders, or who don't have other kinds of disabilities. And so then you add on that this young girl does have some of these struggles, and we don't know, just like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
the her digital setup at this point.
Yeah.
Man, it seems like the fair and just thing to do
Mm-hmm.
would be to figure out, how can I assist, resource this young person if I see that they're not engaging with any of the schoolwork?
Mm-hmm.
What about a phone call? What
Yeah.
about a socially distanced visit? What about some means of communication to figure out what's going on at home that's keeping her from being able to actually do the work,
Mm-hmm.
rather than immediately assigning some kind of criminal intent or malice, and then immediately kind of putting down the hammer. But as
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a friend of mine this week, Simone Marshall Hayes,
Come on.
who is a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
as well. And we were talking about something totally different. But as we were getting into the conversation, we were just talking about juvenile injustice. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, how many of these kids were locked up outside of the pandemic for truancy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is already within the system this idea that Black kids don't go to school. And
Mm-hmm.
when they don't go to school, it is for criminal intent. Therefore, we lock them up for that. So
Mm-hmm.
now that we're in a pandemic and I'm seeing that on a digital scale, my thought is not to figure out what do you need. My thought is, this is just another example of truancy. So let's put her in the juvenile justice system again. Let's
Yeah.
incarcerate her.
Another example of something I need to control in this way.
Mm,
And I would suggest to everyone that there are a lot of things where you can assert your area of control. Number one, the first area of control would be, do the people around me have the food that they need? Number two, do the people around me have the digital access that they need to do this kind of thing? Is the family environment something that could use some more support? Here's where we can come in as believers, right? Because what we had the young lady on the podcast a few months back talking about her young people who are in juvenile not detention centers but juvenile prisons. But this is where we can come in and we can say, in my neighborhood, are you having a hard time logging on? All right, how can we help you with Wi-Fi? In my neighborhood, do you need a tutor, or do you need an online proctor? Put your thing out there on Facebook or put your thing out there on Instagram and let people know I'm available if you need to walk through, if you've got some time on your hand. Retirees, okay? All right, don't hate me, all right? I'm just saying. I've seen some retirees on videos who had time to watch people doing work but not help them, okay? It's like, how can we help people? That's what I'm talking about. How can we help?
Yes. No, and I heard a pastor said this, but it was in the context of, well, I guess it totally works. It was in the context of, social justice and dealing with police brutality and mass incarceration. And the point that he was making was that we as a church, we've got to preach Black Lives Matter. We've got to preach it from the pulpit. We've got to talk about it in our churches. But he said we've also got to come down from the pulpit,
mercy,
walk past the pews, and go into the community. And I loved that imagery because it's like at some point we can't keep waiting for them to come to us and say, I need help. Waiting for them to come and say, hey, I don't have internet. Hey, I can't connect. Hey, I haven't been able to be in contact with my teacher. We need to be able to hear and know that this is a reality in some communities, and take the initiative and say, I'm going to go around in my community and I'm going to see if this is a reality here. And if I find through my own initiative that this is a reality here, then I'm now going to leave and take the necessary steps and come back to these people and say, you told me because I asked. Like I'm the type of person, I do not ask for help. I don't.
Why is that not a surprise to us, Claudia?
Listen, I got a pride thing. The Lord is still working on me. Okay. When I am in distress, when I am in crisis, I do not reach out to people. I don't. I say to myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. I got this. And even though I don't got it, I have no means of figuring it out. And it's not going to happen. And I had several friends that really came alongside me during a particular time in my life when I really did not have it. And they really came and they were talking to me nonstop. Claudia, you don't have it. Claudia, you need help. Claudia, or this was the big question that they would always do. Every time they saw me, they'd be like, hey, are you okay? And I would be like, yeah, I'm good. No. Are you okay? And sometimes they had to ask me 2 and 3 and 4 times before I would take a breath and then be like, you know what? No, I'm not. This is all the stuff that's going on. And I don't know what to do with XYZ, where to go. And I feel like that is what's happening in our communities. You've got some strong-willed Black people who are not okay with their condition, but are at some level potentially feeling like it's their fault. Who are potentially wondering like, man, there's some shame attached to that thing. There's some guilt attached to it. And so it's like, you know what? I can't ask anybody for help for something that I got myself into. So I'm just going to sit in this and I'm going to, argue about it and try to figure it out on my own. and they're not figuring out on their own. And they need us to come in and just, hey, I'm from the church down the street and I just want to know, how are you doing?
Mm,
How can I
mm,
help you? And trust, they are going to say they're okay the first time.
mm.
That's what we do. We say we all do this. We all say we're okay the first time. You got to keep going back. You got to keep putting up that pressure and saying, hey, just want to check in again. Are you okay? Hey, want to check in again. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, want to check in again. Are you okay? And it's that third and that fourth time when people can finally take that breath and say, nah, they're really asking me. Like, they really want to know. They really want to help. Sigh.
Hmm.
This is what's going on.
Hmm. Or
That's what I
and
feel like we gotta do.
being specific, you know, um, how they how are they doing in school? Can
Mm,
anybody use? I got some stuff here that people could use. If not, we've got some tutoring if that's available. If you want, we've got this and that if you want. And but something that you said that strikes at the core for me right now with us at Message. And as I'm watching, I know every week you ask me about hope in the headlines. And I'll be honest with you, the discussion the last few weeks, I have been struggling to find hope. This whole season has been hard for me. Other people are able to, boom, let's go, let's do this, let's whatever. This has been a struggle for me because it does go so deep. And the article that we are looking at this week about Christianity and racism.
yeah.
Um, it hurts my heart when you said people who are struggling often may not ask for help because they view where they are right now as, in totality, their own problem
Mm-hmm.
and their own fault and their own choice. And for generations,
Yeah.
African Americans have been told that the reason why you don't have money, the reason why you don't have education, the reason why you're in jail is your fault based on your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want anybody to misunderstand me to think that we do not have a choice in any matter. I believe we do. But as a person of faith and as a believer, I believe that there is a wider landscape and theater of events than what you can see just before you with the naked eye.
Mercy.
And what has happened to our people is wider than Carmela, you make the right choice. You go to sleep. It is a miracle of grace
Mm.
that God has allowed so many, like a Claudia Allen, who's smart as all things, you know what I mean? To be able to go and to perceive the story behind what is being taught to me, to discern the truth and have the Holy Spirit work and say, this is what you were taught, but this is reality. And then to tap into the power of the Holy Spirit and to move higher and move higher. That is God working through all of this.
Mm.
But for me to, and not but, and for me, I
Mhm.
want other people to realize where, and that was truly when that was the epiphany for me in my work. I grew up in the church, you know what I mean? I grew up with a traditional home and all that sort of thing. But it's when I sat across the table from somebody who didn't come from the kind of home that I did and didn't have the advantages that I did. And to be able to say, this is not what God had in mind for you.
Mm.
There's more. You can't see it now, but there's more. And he's got something for you. And it's more. It's not this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so for me, when we talk about how um, the Robert P. Jones book,
Mhm.
what's
Mhm.
the name of this thing now?
Uh,
The
what is it called? White Too Long?
Yeah, White Too Long.
Mm-hmm.
The premise, the idea. Now he's white, a white man, grew up in the Southern Baptist Church in Macon, Georgia, of all places. That's where I was born.
Oh.
And and so he stops and he makes this racism index, right? Different questions. So when he polls people, he comes up with a racism index. And so he can, he can assess, certain racial attitudes and beliefs and thoughts. And what is scary and sad is that people who are Christians, white Christians, and it's not just evangelicals. Evangelicals get a bad rap. Yeah, they're up there, but it's a lot of other people too who accept some racist ideas. And when you think about it, if the church accepts racist ideas and believes in it, now prints racist ideas and materials and teaches those racist ideas, or somehow, and I'm sure they would not think it's racist, right? But if this is the message that they hold dear, and it's transformed in or transferred into our community, people are catching that. Just like we said, going back to the society has taught, we learn in our society how to be and how what's supposed to happen. So if this is the predominant voice, is what Robert P. Jones has asserted, then Christianity bears a responsibility to correct this. Am I right?
No, I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that what's fascinating about his research is that he was really showing that there are more, or the whites in America that hold these racist ideas outnumber the whites that are non-religious. So that in essence, racism is not just a white people problem, it's a white Christian problem.
That hurts.
That when I read, I was like, wow. So all these conversations that we're having about like needing to reform racism within the church, the reason there's so much contention is because it's the white Christians that are really wanting to hold on to these ideas and not let them go. But then at the same time are also in denial about even having them to begin with. Like I don't think that they genuinely process or think that their ideas are racist. And so that's why you have that story with, I believe the woman's name is Alex Marshall Brown, who was sitting on the lawn of a Lutheran church,
Mercy,
doing some work on. It's light out. It is bright as day. There's no deviance, nothing of this nature happening, and no deviance, no unholy activity. Okay. You've got a Black woman sitting on the lawn in the middle of a pandemic, more than likely just wanting to get out of her house space, right? Like we're all cooped up. She probably was like, you know what? I'm going to go outside. This looks like a really nice church. I'm going to sit on the grass right here, try to get some work done, probably live close by. She's sitting out there doing some work, and two volunteers or attendees of the church, white elderly individuals, come and confront this woman and accost her, talking about she cannot sit here on the lawn. Now, have you ever heard of some foolishness like that, Carmela? I can't go out the house and sit on a church lawn.
Yeah.
And you're gonna come up to me and you're gonna talk to me about everything from, am I gonna expose myself to children?
Yeah, well, she had said that had happened before. Oh, we've had so many people before. People expose themselves or assault our secretaries.
And then the gentleman, right? You remember, he comes and he's like, by the way, all lives matter.
If you don't go somewhere, he's standing there tacking up a no trespassing sign on the church tree. Okay, talk about no trespassing.
Carmela.
All right, there's no fence around or anything like this. Now, okay, wait. Now, okay, this is a key example of what we're talking about. Number one, let's talk about the interaction. This lady, this woman, who is obviously doing something constructive and productive, is not the same as someone who is challenged either with substance abuse or a mental health issue. You can't tell the difference between her and someone else who's going to expose himself. You can't tell that difference. You can't make that discernment. And then number two, you're taking a video as
Yeah.
if something already wrong is happening. Well,
Yeah.
you just never know. You can't tell that she's sitting there doing something and is not aggressive. And so she says, "Oh, are you afraid of me?" You can't tell that this person who is sitting down
Yeah.
doing work is not the same as a person who is there looking for someone to hurt. All
Yeah.
right. And then, dude, as you're attacking up the no trespassing sign, you couldn't have said something before you went out to Lowe's and got that little sign and then talking about all lives matter.
All
Now,
lives matter.
here, let's talk about the structural
Talk to me, friend.
implications of this thing right here.
Yeah.
All lives matter. Number one, the
Mhm.
same webinar that I was on the other day with the American Bar Association, talking about redlining to food deserts and everything like this. Let's talk about the reality that in many Black neighborhoods, you don't have a green space or any kind of, and I'm not talking about many Black neighbors. I'm talking about, let me scratch that and rewind that. I'm talking about areas of the city that have been neglected, regardless of who lives there, but more often than not, we know who lives there, right? So we're talking about areas of the city that have been neglected, zoning that has made it so that there is no green space, no place to walk and jog. Hey, shout out to, or God bless and rest his soul, Ahmed Arbery, who's jogging, trying to find and get some exercise. And this is what happens. This is the reality for so many people. There's not a green space. There's not a safe space. You don't see Black people out jogging all the time. You understand what I mean? There is not, and then you don't have the food, access to the food, and you got the food deserts, and you got the bodegas and everything like this. So the standard of living is different. Now, somebody crosses that abyss to sit down in the oasis and the shade of your church, and you tell them to get out.
Wow.
That is it at itself. And now they wouldn't say that they're racist because we've had interactions before.
Black people go to our church.
Yeah, Black people. But see, here, this is where his study
cousin
came.
is dating a Black Carmela. Me and this trespassing sign, all lives matter. Okay. Mike, my son is dating a Black girl. All lives matter. Jesus loves everybody. All lives matter. Black woman, if you don't get up off this lawn.
Okay. I love the way, like you said, I love the way she said, she says, I'm not even talking lives right now. I'm talking, can I sit on your grass? Okay, that's what I'm not even trying to make a protest. Now the Robert P. Jones thing I thought was interesting because, it hurts to see because, you've got the family, my sister.
Tell me.
All right, you're my sister, right?
Yeah.
Then I have sisters, all right, in the church. My brothers and sisters in the church, right? But Jones's research found out that the sisters and brothers in the church are 30% more likely to see the Confederate monuments as reflecting Southern pride than for the Confederacy and the racial inequality that they stand for and the championship of slave ownership. They are able to pass that by and see that as Southern pride. This is a problem. Then what did he say? 20% more likely to than people who are not Christian and in the church but are white. 20% more likely to think that the generations or slavery and the generations of discrimination don't have anything to do with Black people's lives and standard of living right now. All right, people who don't go to church get this more than people who do. In fact, going to church is an indicator or a characteristic that this is what you're going to believe.
Wow.
This is scary. And so this is a moment for, I'm sorry, I feel like I need to bring it down. Sorry, y'all.
We're excited today, guys. We're excited. We're back within our regular conversation. No guests. Go ahead, Carmela.
This is a moment to challenge. This is why we are, and I think every Christian everywhere who believes in Jesus has to take a moment and say, let me ask myself some hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it is disturbing and confusing
Yeah.
when you have this, and I'm not even gonna call her a sister.
Go ahead, friend.
She decides she's going to break out the black paint in front of Trump Tower
Come on, friend.
and somehow cover up the words that say Black Lives Matter, because she is defending Jesus and she says Jesus matters. Well, what is the conflict between Jesus mattering and Black Lives Matter? What is the conflict there?
Come on. Yeah. And this goes down into, and listen, I don't have I'm gonna throw this in here just because I don't have time and I can save myself. I think that this is intimately attached to why so many Christians are even having an issue with Black is King by Beyonce on Disney Plus. It's the same idea that we as Christians have been taught that to uplift our Blackness, to praise that which God has created us in, is literally an affront to who God is. We have been taught that, because white is right, because European is the way to go, because we have had this kind of indoctrination, the moment that there now becomes a conversation that is exclusively about the uplift of Black people, so Black Lives Matter, that immediately becomes, are you talking about Black superiority? Black lives matter? Black superiority? Black is king? Black is better than everybody else? No, that's not what is being said. What is being said is that there is a long history, a long trajectory where Black has not been celebrated and Black has not been protected and Black has not been served. And we're saying that we are trying to combat that and directly say, you know what, we're going to serve Black today. We're going to serve, we're going to protect Black. And what is so sad is that Black Christians are so brainwashed that they can't uplift Blackness without having to make some kind of a caveat, add some kind of a qualifier, that to say Black Lives Matter is now unchristian. So you've got this woman, what is her name? Beverlyn Beatty, I believe, in
Something like that.
Goes on the street seeking to cover up the Black Lives Matter mural while shouting about her belief in God, about her allegiance to Jesus. And I think you said she then also started talking about like vote Trump, vote Republican, vote
Christianity.
Vote Christianity, as though Christianity is attached to Trump and racist ideas. That just goes right back to what Robert Jones was talking about in his research. It's really mind-blowing to me just how attached Christianity is to racism and how it's expressing and manifesting itself both in white Christians and Black Christians. That's the thing that's like, wow, this is some deep-seated stuff. And this is why I always say when I go on these panels, Carmela, I always say that racism shows up in 4 ways. It's structural, it's institutional, it's interpersonal, and it's internal. And so people oftentimes, when we have these conversations, we're very quick and we understand how racism is showing up in structures and systems and institutions, and even in interpersonal exchanges. But we rarely deal with how racism is showing up internally in people and preventing them from even being able to value themselves properly, and not only value themselves properly, but even see God and Christianity and their religion through the proper lens. That is
Is that, and then that's what Jones is ultimately trying to say, is that, the apologies are good. I
Mm-hmm.
think the apologies are the first part in the process, but that's not the
Mm-hmm.
end of the story. If you think
Yeah.
that you can get your institution by some feat of diplomacy to get your institution to make an apology to Black people, that's just the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Now we've got to go back and repair the damage that was done and be intimately involved and connected with the oppression and the repression that
Yeah.
the institutions have been involved with. Now
Wow.
we got to make some changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to require, um, on some level, renouncing the privilege and
Mm-hmm.
renouncing everything that I thought I was. And
Mercy.
that is exactly what Jesus has called us to do. Now,
Ah,
that is not something that people want to take part in.
yeah.
That's what Jesus has called us to do.
Wow.
I'm no longer me, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm dead. I live the life of Christ, and Christ lives in me. That's who I am now. Okay?
Yeah.
The
No,
servant king.
that's good. That's good, Carmela. We've been called to make change, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is attached to the example of Christ
Mm-hmm.
and the commission that he gave us.
Yes.
Carmela, in all this, what is the hope? What is the hope that you see in this? Is there any hope in this with this kind of research, knowing that the church, regardless of denomination, Christianity as a whole, seems to be infected with this sin of racism?
Claudia, if you'd asked me a month ago, I would say that Jones's research says that people, the reasons for their denial that they assert for their denial is that one, that's not me. There's some intervening actions and activities and people that make this society the way that is. Or that's not me. That's a few bad apples that has Christianity looking like this, just like there's a few bad cops. No, this is deep within the fabric. And what I believe is that just like we believe the word says all things work together for good,
Mhm.
them that are called according to his purpose, them that love the Lord are called according to his purpose. This is a moment that the Spirit is empowering people to make that appeal to their brothers and sisters.
Mm.
Come out of this confusion. You got to give it up.
Mhm.
Come out of this. And I believe because the Spirit and the Lord strives with people and gives grace unlike us.
Mhm.
The hope is that he's going to make this turn around. Somebody's going to get it.
Mm. That's the hope, y'all. Man, Carmela, this was a great conversation. I miss just having our back and forths. So this was fantastic. Guys, we are so excited. We want you to keep following us. And I know that I don't know, I'm a bit hype, but we've got a guest coming on the podcast. Like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
um, be looking out for this promotional, y'all. But we have Sean King, the
What?
one and only Sean King, coming on the podcast. He is currently doing a book tour for his
Mm-hmm.
virtual book tour for his recent book, Make Change.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are so excited to welcome him to the What's the Message podcast, where we're going to dialogue, take a nice deep dive into his book, The
Mm-hmm.
Forward, written by Bernie Sanders. So be looking out for those promotional materials so that you can know the exact date and time for when he will be gracing us right here on Facebook Live. And Carmela, I'm hype. Are you hype?
I know you can't tell it by my face, but I really am.
Man. So you guys make sure that you join us for that. We are so grateful to all of you who join us
Mm-hmm.
every single week on Thursdays at 11 a.m. We do this
Mm-hmm.
thing live. We do it for you. We love talking to you. And of course, Carmela and I love talking to each other. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you join us next week and every week after that. Thursdays, 11 o'clock a.m. It's where we talk about things. We'll be right back here. And the topic just might be a little different. So
right.
make sure that you're following us on social media right here on Facebook, on Instagram and Twitter at Message 1898. And of course on YouTube. Make sure that you are on our YouTube channel. There you can watch all of the previous episodes. You can catch some of the guests that we spoke about earlier. Carmelo mentioned Valerie Slater, who we had on, who specifically talked to us about her work in the juvenile justice system. Mm-hmm. If that's something you're interested in, there's an episode right on that. Go over to our YouTube channel and check it out. And of course, our May-June issue of the print magazine is available. So make sure that you have read those free articles on our website, and make sure that you have subscribed to our print issue. When you go to our website, you give us your email, you get our weekly newsletter, and then you can sign up and subscribe for the print magazine. And I'm telling you, there is content in the print magazine that we intentionally don't share. It's so good that we need you to support the magazine. So make sure that you go to our website, make sure that you are a sponsor, make sure that you are subscribed, that you are donating, that you are getting your Bible studies and your products from our Message shop. Make sure that you are supporting Message, guys, because I'm telling you, we can't have these amazing conversations and we can't be a blessing to you without your help. And so we want you to partner with us. So make sure you go to www.messagemagazine.com, www.messagemagazine.com, and you can get all of your Message content needs right there.
Amen. That's it.
Pleasure. That's it. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege. It's a joy. Until next time, we'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
Awesome. See you, Claudia. Claudia, I think the one other thing that we have to remember,
our behavior is definitely influenced or impacted by,
I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and we know that
we're excited that with the powers of Zoom and the like, we can still
the eating of certain animals.
Headlines. I am your host, Claudia Allen. This is my chief executive. Right. So many churches are actually
80% of the affiliates, ABC affiliates here in the United States, picked it up.
Not telling the truth and going back to let's just dip this water up.
Issues. And so we live our lives working. If you think about
brother from another mother, the pastor, Richard Bird, and I'm telling you, we handle the heavy stuff. We do the heavy stuff.